Welcome to 15 Minutes with a Mara Moss Media BookTrib production. Today we are sitting with Peter Green, author of the new book, My Cancer Journey from Discovery to Recovery. Peter Green is founder of The Workout Through Cancer. He's a native of Westport, Connecticut, which is why we were so lucky to have him come in studio today. And I'll just read a little bit of his bio to you. After attending Seattle University, he spent 2 years with the Peace Corps in West Africa. Later, he launched a successful career in print and digital media with McGraw-Hill, Institutional Investor Magazine, and Weather.com. He's back living in his hometown of Westport with his wife Mary and 2 dogs, Max and Louie, and is the proud father of a grown son named Benjamin. So welcome, Peter.
Thank you very much for having me.
I was telling you in the earlier part of our discussion when we first got here that this is something for me that's very difficult because in 2009 one of my best friends died from brain cancer. It is one of the most devastating diagnoses. How did you react when you heard those words, there's something wrong?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm sorry about your friend. You know, one of the things I've learned is that as I've been developing the book in my company is everyone's been touched by cancer, right? Whether it's family, friends, colleagues, it's just epidemic proportion. That being said, when I did hear the words, we found something, it was, a huge shock. It took kind of I can't explain it because in many ways it was a one-time event and it was visceral. It was emotional in the sense that initially I think everyone feels, am I going to die? It's just going to kill me. And then what started to happen, and I thought about this, and really internally, whether you realize it or not, you're transforming right there in a nanosecond from the world that you've always known, that I grew up in for 45 years, that was known for the most part very safe, and all of a sudden I was being pulled from that world and pushed into another world that I knew nothing about. I had no idea what could happen. And I knew, and a part of me, again, I think this is more physiological than being conscious about it, that I'm never going to be able to go back to the world I just left, even post-cancer. So, there was, but the initial shock is just overwhelming.
Well, when it comes to cancer, particularly brain cancer, it really is very scary for people because you don't hear very many success stories and people actually surviving that kind of cancer. And you'll hear the terms thrown around like glioblastoma and all of those kinds of things. But there are several different types of cancer, of brain cancer.
There are, yes. In fact, I was oblivious to any of them until I was diagnosed. And the interesting thing is, when I was diagnosed initially after they did the brain biopsy to figure out what these spots were in my brain, they had pathologists right in the operating room. And so once I came out and I was in the recovery room, the surgeon came and immediately said, it's malignant and we know what it is, and they literally thought it was neuroblastoma. They thought, this is neuroblastoma, and he said, look, we know the protocol, we know the treatment. And then he said, literally, I'm laying there, just eyes opening, and we'll know more in 2 years, and I'm going to go get your family. And I just laying there thinking, what is that about? But what happened was, because, later, I had to spend the night in the hospital, the next day he comes in and he says, Peter, you can go home now. We'll, get back to you later today with the procedure. And he said, though, typically once a month we have what we call a round table with all the pathologists that come together. And he said, we're going to use you as our case study today. So I just want them to look at this. And so what happened was I go home, I really didn't know what neuroblastoma was. And all of a sudden I get a call from him and he said, Peter, in our round table today, a couple of the pathologists looked at this and they thought it might be something else. And if that's the case, it's a much better diagnosis for you. And he said, I'll get back to you. A couple hours later he calls and he said, it's B-cell lymphoma. which is a much different form of brain cancer, still very serious.
Right.
But he said, I think this is something, we're going to be able to fight.
And, you mentioned getting the biopsy.
Yes.
If anyone has ever had any kind of biopsy on your head, which I have,
Yeah.
it's scary because they come at you the same day you're sitting in the doctor's office. We need to do a biopsy like tomorrow.
Right.
And it's the scariest thing. And then even the recovery, it's not like any other kind of biopsy. They shave your head. They
Right.
take out, you have a scar left.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of devastating when you go home and look in the mirror. How was that experience for you?
So for me, it was initially when they found the 6 spots, they said, we don't know what this is. You were in the Peace Corps for 2 years, you were exposed to a lot of different things. I had malaria 3 times. They said this could be a tropical disease. So I went through a battery of tests after the initial signs that, the MRI showed I had spots. And they were trying to find everything, right? And finally they said, we can't find everything, and we're going to have to do a biopsy. So I went into Columbia Presbyterian, and the biopsy was such that what I learned is that your brain doesn't feel pain.
Right.
And that they literally screwed 4 screws on the top of my head into my skull, and to keep it still, and then they did the biopsy. I was out, but not fully out, because they wanted me to be able to speak to them as they were doing things. I don't remember anything, but I guess you're semi-conscious. And so the biopsy and that whole surgery, as kind of bizarre as it was, I didn't feel anything, But it's strange. You're right, because the brain is something that everyone, didn't understand it. I understand it better now. But I think when you get cancer, whether it's breast cancer or liver cancer, it's other forms of your body that you're closer and more associated with. It's a strange cancer to have, for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned the type that you have. What stage were you at when you were diagnosed? What was the prognosis?
Yeah, I was in stage 3, so I was just on that borderline, stage 4 and 5. I was transferred to Sloan because the oncologist there, who my surgeon knew at Columbia Presbyterian, was the #1 person in the world for B-cell lymphoma. They put me into a clinical trial, and they never really talked about the prognosis, nor did I really ask. They just went in and said, all right, this is what we're going to do, and it was overall an 8-month, program.
Now, let's get to talking about your adaptive exercise program, because that's really one of the ways that kind of helped you in your recovery. And I don't think people really understand the importance of diet and exercise for cancer patients.
Sure.
Before my friend died, one of the last text messages I had of her was bring me fruit. Don't bring me flowers, bring me fruit. I just need to eat,
Sure.
healthy. So tell me a little bit about this adaptive exercise program that you have, and then we're going to talk about your kid
Sure.
in a minute.
So this was 2005 when I was diagnosed, and during 2005, the doctors never talked about exercising while you were actually in treatment. And I was a single dad of a 10-year-old son, and I'd always exercised. It's just been a part of my life. But when I came home from cancer, from my treatment, when I came home from that first chemotherapy treatment, which is really very kind of high dosage chemotherapy, I was in the hospital for 4 days, then I go home for 10. And I remember literally laying on my couch for like 12 hours, just completely wasted right out of it. And I said, I have to do something. And I talk about this in the book, that I lowered myself on the floor, and I just started to raise my arms and stretch on the floor, just, like an angel stretch. And immediately I felt something happening. It was the blood starting to circulate and start to surge through my body. And from that one stretch, I developed 12 other exercises that can be done in the house. And they really benefited me. I talk about this in 3 specific ways. First, they allowed me to stay stronger as I was going through my treatment. I was able to, and today they actually say exercising in treatment helps the chemotherapy activate and circulate through your system. The second thing they did was they gave me a sense of control. Now I saw myself along with the doctors at Sloan Kettering, being a part of my treatment. I wasn't idly standing by a lot of people or deers in the headlights, and understandably so. But I felt that now I was part of it, with them fighting my cancer. And probably the third and most important is that it allowed my family, my friends, my 10-year-old son's world from imploding. Because again, co-survivors,
Right.
friends and family are equally affected, differently but very powerfully. And now they saw I was fighting, and I was determined not to let this defeat me. So, these exercises that I developed, very core, very meditative exercises, but those are the three things that they did for me, and I continue to do them today, 13 years later.
Well, you have this kit here. I want you to put it up on the...
Sure.
It's the Workout Through Cancer kit.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of fall back and let you talk directly to our readers about what's in the kit.
Sure. Well, first of all, let me say to the readers and authors out there, when I wrote the book, I never considered myself a writer. I'm more of a storyteller. And when I started to write the book, it was really about sharing the exercises I did to help those going through their cancer. But once I started to write, all the memories that I pushed away for 10 years, I went right back to my business career and got involved. And it wasn't until when I left my final last job in New York City that when I came home I realized I have to do something else. And this was the reason why I started to write My Cancer Journey. But in writing My Cancer Journey and through writing the exercises, I said, well, why wouldn't I try to provide the tools I use to keep me healthy for those going through their cancer treatment and post-cancer. I learned very much that not only are the people who are going in treatment necessary to exercise, but equally important are the people coming out of treatment. There are 3 million people a year coming in and out of treatment in the U.S., 5,000 being diagnosed with cancer every day. So with that, I developed my company, workoutthroughcancer.com, and we have manufactured what we call our fitness pack. And these are all the tools that I use to help me through my cancer journey, and still do help me. So this is the kit, and it really is very self-sufficient. It, like I said, when I came home, and a lot of cancer people, their immune systems are compromised. You are not going to be going out to a fitness club.
Right.
If I even got a cold, I'd be back in the emergency room. So within this kit, the 13 exercises are adaptive. So we have what we call our Pilates ball, and these exercises can be done on the ground, or they can be done sitting in a chair.
Is this weighted?
This is a weighted. This is a 2-pound ball.
Oh.
And if you feel it, it's not, and you can squeeze it. And it's really important because in squeezing it, it starts to circulate your blood and your forearms. Again, people are, whether you have a fork or you're using, I had 130 needles that I had to go through. I never wore a fork. It's really important to keep your system and your veins and your body strong.
You get a good workout from this.
So we have a mat. You can lay it out in your living room or anywhere. Again, I do these in my home. I do them a number of times, still in my home.
And is the mat mostly for comfort and safety?
Yeah, the mat is for, listen, depending if you want to lay down on the floor, but it's for safety, like any yoga mat, right? You're going to want to lay on something a little bit softer. In addition, we have what we call our resistant bands. Really great tools for people to use. We have them in 2 different tension levels. So imagine, and I know that, if someone has cancer, they might not be able to get down on the floor. You can use them standing up, or you can sit in a chair and start to do these. And it just opens up, there's, muscle mass issues, there's circulation issues, that doing exercises absolutely help you. I'm going to stand up for a second. We also have this little squeeze ball. And again, you're just sitting if you're in work or you're at watching television at home, just squeeze that, both for tension and circulation. It just allows you to do that. And then the last thing we have is, and it all comes in this nice, box, is a 4-pound weight ball.
Oh boy.
You got it. And so the 4-pound weight ball, again, a lot of these exercises you can do without any weights, but then you want to start building. You want to start building your muscle mass, because it's very important, and also to be able. A lot of people gain weight going through chemotherapy and different types of surgeries or radiation. I had both, and so again, they're very adaptive. They're oncologist approved. We work with Yale oncologists who loves the exercise program. What was interesting, what I found out when I was researching my company and the exercises, is that when you go into Google and you type in cancer exercises, what comes up is people are doing yoga, which is great, meditation. Again, these are core meditative exercises. People maybe can do treadmills and so forth. Depends on the stages that you're in, but there is not one cancer exercise program out there, literally, that takes you through 13 different steps that talk about stability, trunk, your core, your body strength, flexibility. And so that's what we have developed. I have a great medical staff in my company, oncologist, clinical psychologist, physiotherapist, and a nutritionist. And talking about your friend, absolutely, you have to do both. I remember when I was going through my cancer, the taste of certain foods that I loved, I couldn't even tolerate. No one could enter my room who had a coffee. The smell itself, and I love my coffee, I'm addicted to it. But at that time, I couldn't do it. And you said a very important thing. When most people get diagnosed with cancer, the first thing that people say is, how can I help? What can I do? All in great well-meaning. I talk about it takes a village to help a person through cancer. But typically they send fruit basket, flowers, candy. As nice as it is for you to be sending those things, half the time the person can't use them. I talk about them being nice, but they're perishable goods. Whereas this kit is something that is durable, and ultimately it will give the person a better chance to survive through their treatment and hopefully post-treatment. And so this is my mission, workoutthroughcancer.com, and the book is really what gave me the confidence and the push to continue moving forward with this.
Are you completely cancer-free now?
Well, never use that term.
Completely. Are you cancer-free at this time?
I am. So one of the things I've learned is that no one is cancer-free. I am in long-stage remission. And it's a great point, because I work with a lot of cancer support groups, and I speak to people, is that typically when someone is going through cancer treatment, they are so focused on the treatment, and they have a huge amount of support. They have the doctors, they have the support staff, and it really puts you into this other world. But then all of a sudden you hear, as bad as hearing the words, we found something, when they say you're clear. Those are equally as amazing and uplifting. But what happens is, then they say, all right, good luck. Come back in a month and we'll do some more tests. And you walk out that door and you realize, wow, I'm done. But this, outside of, maybe your family and friends, I think that people post-cancer treatment actually are more fearful, more stressed out. All of those feelings and emotions continue, because the thought of, oh my gosh, is this going to come back? And a lot of times people feel, oh, you're great, you look great, you're done with it, and they really, it's a difficult process for people post-cancer treatment, kind of re-entering a world that they had left. And as I said in the beginning, you're never really back to that place, because the reality is, and I'm not scared by it, but that, post-cancer treatment, and hearing that word clear, you still are living with cancer, and I will be for the rest of my life. But that's my mission and passion, to really help those who are going through this, and the co-survivors, because equally they feel this.
Well, your book is My Cancer Journey from Discovery to Recovery.
Yeah.
It is available for sale, and we will actually post a link
Great,
on our site when this video goes up. And this book is good not just for people who are living with cancer and going through treatment, but it's also good for family members and anyone who is a person of support, so that you can understand what's going on, the emotional and the physical toll, and how you can actually help, because people do want to help.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Peter.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you.